Calabresi.
My name is Miss Spalding.
I am the wellness director here at SI.
I'm wellness counselor here.
I'm a marriage and family therapist, and I use my training and experience to help run our wellness program.
I'm a licensed therapist and called a wellness counselor here.
I think all freshmen should be aware of the range of substances that can be exposed to, during their high school career, during their college career, or maybe already have been exposed to as middle schoolers. The basics are alcohol, marijuana. I think it's important to know about vaping, and nicotine in general, whether that's through cigarettes, but more commonly vaping. Study drugs. These are kind of the more common substances, vaping and study drugs.
General information about alcohol. It's readily available. You're going to be able to get it if you want it. The danger of it is it affects your central nervous system. You consume it and it gets into your bloodstream, and then your central nervous system, your spine, your brain controls pretty much everything else you do, and that's going to slow down. It's going to make you do things that you don't normally do. It could be embarrassing, you could be slurring or not walking correctly, you're making poor decisions that you might not have made before. People that partake in a lot of alcohol consumption tend to have unprotected sex, which could lead to STDs and unwanted pregnancies and a lot more complications. You're not the student that you want to be. You might not show up to school every day. You might not be in your best place to be learning that day. You'll be fatigued, and long-term usage has shown that it actually lowers your IQ. So that is permanent, unreversible damage. Teenagers that get used to drinking, that like drinking, that's their social life drinking, tend to binge drink, and that's consuming, 3-4 drinks fast and more than like twice a week or so. That's what we can kind of consider binge drinking, but that's going to be different for everyone too, depending on your body type, on your genetics, and so it's going to be hard to find your safe level of drinking, but long-term effects, if you're continuously drinking throughout your teen years into adulthood, you're going to have some addiction problems, most likely.
So study drugs are most commonly what we're talking about is Adderall and Ritalin. These are drugs that are prescription drugs that are provided by doctors or psychiatrists for very specific reasons to help individuals who have trouble focusing. So most commonly ADHD, that's where we see that type of prescription provided. But it's been given the name study drugs because students are starting to use those drugs to help them study, to help them perform on exams and tests, partly because it helps students stay awake. They can study longer, which doesn't necessarily mean better grades, but now we're losing sleep, which is actually more important than the actual study times. I think there's a perception that it's helping them focus more, which is generally going to be inaccurate because, again, these drugs are provided for people who have connections that aren't firing as in the same way as others. And so the drug's going to work a certain way with their brain than it is with yours.
Vaping. So there's a lot of advertisement out these days about vaping. It's sort of the tobacco is back in due to the vaping market.
It's really new, actually. This is something that has just really kind of spiked up in our society in the past few years, and it's a way to consume nicotine.
But it's basically nicotine again. Though they've taken out some of the chemicals, tar and something else, it's still nicotine is the base of it, and it's adding it to a flavored liquid, and it's tasting kind of good.
Nicotine is one of the most addictive chemicals on Earth, and individuals that get addicted to it, which happens very quickly, it's a very intense addiction and can be lifelong.
Yeah, and again, your body starts craving nicotine pretty quickly, so it's going to disrupt your focus, your ability. You're going to wait to hopefully get out of school quicker to get that fix, and it can be problematic pretty quickly.
Vaping comes in multiple forms. Some people will use a kind of standard vape that takes in a canister with a cartridge, and that can have maybe like an essence oil in it or a flavored oil in it. And that can be combined with nicotine or not. It can be just a flavored oil. But what we need to be aware of, we're still inhaling chemicals. There's still substances in that vape that should not be in your lungs to start with. And thirdly, some vapes can be modified. So these mods can then allow for marijuana to be used in it. So, and this could be different versions of vape pens, jewels, mods, whatever you want to call them. But really to be aware of what you are inhaling, that if someone hands you a vape pen, do you know what's in it? Do you know if it's just flavored oil? Do you know if it has nicotine in it? Do you know if it has marijuana in it? Being aware of that. And some students aren't. Some students think it's just a flavored oil when really it's flavored with and it has nicotine as well. And then you're inhaling something you weren't planning on, taking a chemical to your body you weren't planning on.
Cannabis, marijuana, another very readily available substance and now legal, and confusing because it's often thought of as a good, like, casual thing to do.
It is a plant-based drug that can be smoked. It can be actually consumed through edibles, and it has a chemical in it called THC that has a psychoactive effect.
There is a drug in there, THC, that's going to affect nerve cells, that's going to affect how your ability to think and remember and your coordination. Again, on the teen brain, this could be more dangerous because your brain is still developing and it could cause some serious permanent damage.
It's a drug that I think there's been a lot of debate about whether or not it's addictive, whether or not it's harmful. Is it all natural because it's from a plant? And really, we're finding more and more research. Now that it's becoming more popular and more common, we can research it more and more and really learning about the addictive properties to it and the long-term effects it has on our body and specifically our brain.
Short-term stuff could be, forgetting this or that, feeling paranoid or scared, feeling anxious, feeling hungry, putting on weight, low motivation. Those are ways that can affect your everyday life.
Weed's really a big topic right now because the laws around it have changed a lot just in the past few years. So now we have it legalized in California and in other states. Still not legal federally, which causes some confusion around the laws.
It's not as bad as alcohol, right, Miss Paulding?
I don't know. I wouldn't say that. Equally, you know what I mean. It's going to be your individual body make, your chemistry, your genetics, your social life, how you're doing this. Either one of them. Are you smoking in the morning, vaping in the morning, using marijuana before school, after school, during school? Alcohol, is it only on the weekends? Is it every day? Is it when you're alone? There's just so many different habits that I'm sure it would be confusing. So again, I advocate for you to talk to a trusted adult about usage and habits and how that's affecting your life.
How do you stay safe when taking drugs or alcohol?
Good question.
I like that question because that's assuming that I'm going to take drugs or alcohol. And for some people that may be the case. Some students are going to try drugs and alcohol. Okay, and my message to you would be, how do you be safe? How do you be cautious and thoughtful and intentional about what you're doing? And really thinking about, first of all, why are you taking it? What are you hoping to get from that? And making sure that connects with your own personal goals. But really we want to be aware of our surroundings. We want to be aware of who we're with. We want to be aware of our limitations. So it's the basics of being safe. Okay, obviously, I think the easiest one is no driving. We don't want students to be driving under the influence of any substance. We want to be around friends and people that we know, familiar people that we trust. You don't want to be in a situation where you're surrounded by people you don't know and your inhibitions are down. You're not making your normal decisions and your behaviors become more risky. That's not a good, safe place for you to be.
If you know you're going to a party or someone's house that's going to have alcohol or drugs, make decisions ahead of time of what you want to do. Make a plan with a friend maybe have a sign you can give each other when it's getting to be too much or when you're not having fun anymore. Maybe make a plan for something to do afterwards, like go to the mall or go to a movie, engage in some kind of activity, volleyball or hanging out, playing a game or something different so you can escape if you need to safely. Good to know your resources if you're concerned about your own drinking, drug use, or friends.
This basically speaks to the idea of sanctuary. This is, I think, one of the most beautiful things about our school is that we have a lot of really caring adults here.
Beyond your home, maybe there's someone in the church, maybe a teacher that you trust, a counselor. Each of you have a counselor, and then there's also wellness, and that's the program I'm in. Me and two other licensed therapists make up wellness, and part of our job is to support students and help them through these difficult times.
And taking care of our students is our number one priority. And I think we see that when it comes to drugs and alcohol, because if a student is struggling with substances and they're concerned about themselves or the use of a friend, they can come forward and speak to really any trusted adult on campus, but this includes the deans, this includes Mr. Gotch, Miss Davis. You come to an adult here and express that you're concerned about your use or a friend's use and you want help with that. They are going to say, we got you, and they're going to walk you up to wellness and come find myself or Miss Levine or some other member of counseling and wellness and get you support with that.
So if you want to come to us, and it can be a scary thing to disclose maybe bad habits about yourself or your friends, we can help you through that. It's not necessarily picking up the phone and telling your parents or the deans. It's getting the support that you need, whether it's here in this office or outside of school.
Trap that a lot of teenagers fall into is this feeling of, I've got to drink or smoke if I want to fit in, because that's what everyone's doing. And what was really interesting to me is that we have polled students the past 2 years on substance use. How much are you using? How many people do you know are using? And really what we're seeing is almost 60% of our students are not using a substance regularly. So that means that's 60% of the school population that you can fit in and hang out with without having to use a substance. I would encourage students to be talking to adults about these topics. Ask your questions. Come find us. I love talking to students about this stuff. You have questions, I'm happy to ask them. And just because you come in my office and say, I'd like to know more about marijuana, doesn't mean I'm assuming you're a stoner or smoking a lot of weed. All you're telling me is you're curious and you want to know more information, and I think I have it. And I hope that I'm a trusted source of that information. You can get plenty of information online, and it may not be the most reliable. But I think our department up here is really strong and knowledgeable, and we have a lot of information that we're happy to share with you. So come talk to us, come ask questions, come find support if you need it, and that discussion should be ongoing. This is like you're a freshman. You've got 4 years here at SI, so whether it's substances or some other topic, make sure you're talking to someone, asking questions, having a dialogue. That's part of you developing and growing and experiencing and learning, and we're here to be along on that journey with you.
Thank you, Mr. Calabrese.